Welcome back, Fanfield family. Today's story is a bit on the longer side. In fact, it's the longest story we've ever looked at. With that in mind, let's not waste any more time and get right to it. Up until he was 10 years old, Oin Parnafakassis was in an elite group of the very best families of Nissis. They went to the very best tailors, shared the same tutors, played in the same exclusive company. When his mother died and his father discovered that the money they had been living on was based on a thief's salary, he suddenly found himself on a very different kind of society, one that he had been ill-equipped to deal with. They were poor. Oin eventually learned to make a living at the only skill he seemed to be well suited for, gardening. In time, he had grown an impressive garden of willow anther, gold cannet, chokeweed, white bloatroot, and trauma shrubs. He had also grown himself into a remarkably uninteresting man. Aside from his gardening, he had little to say for himself. Unlearned, uncharismatic, unathletic, uncoordinated. And yet, he yearned. Specifically, he yearned for a girl he had known before all his trouble, a sweet thing with curly locks and a joyous laugh named Benitah Gorgoth. Once, when at play, he had pushed a bully away who was trying to hurt her, and the look of appreciation she gave him was enough to make all his days since then worth their while. As he tended his garden one springtide not very many years ago, he heard some people talking through the thick, tall trauma shrubs about the marriage of Sidura Indoril Pavlek Mamuna, one of the wealthiest and most respected nobles in Nissis, and Sergio Benitah Gorgoth. His heart fell. She had found another, a mere 9 years since she had given him that look while at play. As spring turned into summer and summer into fall, Oin began to sell his herbs, including some to Kenna Yakin Bale, a prominent healer in town. He had been a tutor to both Benitah and Oin and told the young man that the lady's husband was not very well. Oin held back his happiness and continued on his errands. Not long afterwards, Sidura Indoril Pavlek Mamuna fell ill and died, despite all the skills of the great healers, including Yakin Bale. When Oin came to deliver the herbs that day, he said, "If you are still in communication with Benitah, please give her my sympathies." "Nichao," said Yakin, "if I could get a word in with all her counselors. They are trying to find her a new husband, and she has made it clear that she will only marry the strongest man in Morrowind." "Who is that?" asked Oin. "Horath the Strong," replied Yakin. "It is said that he can lift a wagon with but his forefinger and thumb." "You can teach me a spell that will fortify my own strength," said Oin. "I beg you to teach it to me now." "Very well," replied Yakin, "but in return I want your next season's worth of trauma root all to myself." Oin agreed, and Yakin taught him the spell to fortify his strength. It took him some time to master it, visualizing magicka streaming through his body, pumping through the very fibers of his muscles for a time, giving him strength far beyond the puny power nature had intended. When Oin met Horath on the street of Nissis, he cast the spell and challenged him to a duel of strength. "I am Horath the Strong," said Horath the Strong predictably. "Witness as I lift this wagon with but my thumb and forefinger," and he did so. "I am Nimlam the Mighty," said Oin, taking some artistic liberty. "Witness as I lift the stable that houses your wagon with but my forefinger," and he too did so. The word went out quickly throughout Morrowind. The strongest man alive was in the province. Oin went to visit his friend Yakin Bale. Her lady Benitah has heard of the strength of Nimlam the Mighty and has said that she was mistaken. She was not looking for a man of strength to marry, but a man of intelligence, a great scholar. "The greatest in all Morrowind." "Who is that?" asked Oin. "Kenna Warful Thomason," replied Yakin. "It is said that he can best any man or woman in a battle of wits." "You can teach me a spell that will fortify my own intelligence," said Oin. "I beg you to teach it to me now." "Very well," replied Yakin, "but in return I want your next season's worth of white bloatroot all to myself." Oin agreed, and for the next couple of weeks, Yakin taught him the spell and trained him in its use. He taught him how to entrench his mind for the sudden assault of awareness and aptitude that would assail it, how to give himself to the sudden thoughts and theorems that would invade his consciousness. When he met Warful Thomason in the Mages Guild of Nissis, he cast his spell and gave the challenge. "I am Kenna Warful Thomason, and I can prove that Akatosh, Nirn, and Oblivion are one," said Warful, writing out the mathematical formula that showed it was so. "I am Kenna Zombel Mokafa, and I can prove that you do not exist," said Oin. He wrote out the mathematical formula, which proved correct, and Kenna Warful Thomason vaporized on the spot. The word went out quickly throughout Morrowind. The most intelligent man alive was in the province. Oin went to visit his friend Yakin Bale. Her lady Benitah has heard of the intelligence of Kenna Zombel Mokafa and has said that she was mistaken. She was not looking for a man of intelligence to marry, but a man of endurance, a rock. "The greatest in all Morrowind." "Who is that?" asked Oin. "I would say Master Komova," said Yakin. "They say he can stand in blue flames for 20 minutes. "You can teach me a spell that will fortify my own endurance," said Oin. "I beg you to teach it to me now." "Very well," replied Yakin, "but in return I want your next season's worth of chokeweed all to myself." Oin agreed, and for the next several weeks, he learned the spell to make his endurance like that of the oldest stone. He learned how to shrug off the effects of frost, poison, fire, and charges of lightning, pulling the pain into a reservoir of magicka and expelling it. The lesson learned, he came across Master Komova at the Modoc trade house. "My name is Master Komova," said the fellow, nudging the witch next to him. "Kenna Lillis, cast a ball of blue flame for me." And he sat in the inferno of flame for 20 minutes before he left. "Master Komova, my name is Master Vomp," said Oin. "Kenna Lillis, cast a ball of blue flames for me." Oin sat in the inferno of blue fire for very nearly an hour before he left. The word went out quickly throughout Morrowind. The toughest man alive was in the province. Oin went to visit his friend Yakin Bale. "Her Lady Benitah has heard of the endurance of Master Vomp," he said, not entirely approving of Oin's latest sobriquet, "and has said that she was mistaken. She was not looking for a man of endurance to marry, but a man of agility, a nimble acrobat, the greatest in all Morrowind." "Who is that?" asked Oin. "I would say Funkrazat Prif," said Yakin. "They say he is the greatest shield blocker and pickpocket in Morrowind." "You can teach me a spell that will fortify my own agility," said Oin. "I beg you to teach it to me now." "Very well," replied Yakin. "But in return, I want your next season's worth of gold cannon, all to myself." Oin agreed, and Yakin taught him the spell that would fire his impulses with magicka. Over several weeks, he learned how to supplant his own natural energy with the spells, how to view the world at the slower pace a man with advanced agility sees. In time, Oin came upon Funkrazat in a field outside the city doing his regular exercises. Oin cast his spell and approached the acrobat. "Ah, behold the power of the amazing Funkrazat Prif," said the aforementioned, and prompted his sparring partner to attack him with his sword. He blocked the blows effortlessly with a shield for 10 minutes and then revealed afterwards that he had pickpocketed the young man's purse. "Very impressive, Sir Prif. Now behold the power of the remarkable Gazauf Mo," said Oin, and prompted Prif's sparring partner to attack him with his sword. After 20 minutes of blocking the man's blows with his shield, he revealed that he had pickpocketed Funkrazat Prif's purse. The word went out quickly throughout Morrowind. The most agile man alive was in the province. Oin went to visit his friend Yakin Bale. The door was closed this time, and he heard voices within. "Have you heard about the remarkable Gazauf Mo?" Yakin Bale was asking. "He sounds like a very promising suitor." "The truth is, Kenna, that I have no more interest in him than I had in Nimlam the Mighty, Kenna Zombel Mokafa, or Master Vomp," replied a feminine voice that seemed familiar to Oin. "I will have to invent a new test for suitors while I search for my true love." "You don't wish to marry the strongest, most intelligent, toughest, most agile suitors?" asked the old healer. "No, not at all," said the woman. "I had to make some kind of test to rebuff the advances of so many men interested in my money and the money of my late husband. The truth is that I've never forgotten the young boy who was so kind to me when I was a little girl and so brave fighting off the bullies. His name was Oin Parnifacassus." Oin burst into the room and was reunited with Benitah. They were married at once. A week later, he returned to Yakin Bale and learned how to fortify his personality in exchange for next season's worth of Willowanther. Then they lived happily ever after. Okay, let's talk key terms. Nissis is a medium-sized town on the northwest coast of Vardenfell, the island where the events of Morrowind take place. Willowanther, gold cannet, chokeweed, and trauma root are plants that grow in Morrowind. They all possess mild magical properties. Presumably, white bloatroot is as well, though there is no instance of it in-game. Sidura is a title of respect used in Morrowind. It's used to refer to those of great wealth. Sergio is a similar term used to address nobility, like lord or lady in the real world. Kenna is an honorific term used to refer to scholars. Nachau is a vulgar interjection used here in Annoyance. Magicka is the magical energy that spellcasters use in the Elder Scrolls. The Mages Guild is, as you'd expect, a guild where those who study and practice magic can work together. It has branches all around the Elder Scrolls world. Akatosh is one of the first gods to fully manifest. He is the god of time and the father of the dragons. Nirn is the here, the physical, the plane of mortals, the world. Oblivion is a collection of outer realms. Each of these individual realms is the domain of one of the many Daedric princes, borderline deities that embody aspects of reality. Each plane of Oblivion can be vastly different to suit its god. For example, the Spiral Skein, Mephala's domain, is a dark cavern full of spiders and towers and glowing mushrooms. On the other hand, the Shivering Isles, domain of the god of madness Sheogorath, is vivid, bright, and wildly unpredictable.
Cheese for everyone! Wait! Scratch that! Cheese for no one. That can be just as much of a celebration if you don't like cheese, true?
Modoc Trade House is a popular tavern in Nissis. Ser is just a shortened form of Sergio. So the big lesson here is to be yourself. Just because you're not the strongest or smartest or toughest or most agile doesn't mean you're not worthy of love and respect. Don't try to be something you aren't. You're awesome just the way you are. That doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for self-improvement. We can always better ourselves, but don't try to become something other than who you are to please someone else. Oin tried to be all these things he wasn't, emulating them with magic, only to find out that it's not what the person he loved wanted. She wanted the kind boy she knew years prior. When Oin found that out, all of his worries were over and he got his happily ever after. One interesting thing of note is in Oin's battle of wits, he demonstrates a proof showing his opponent doesn't exist. It's played for comedy, but it's not unlike the concept of Chim in the Elder Scrolls, a state of true enlightenment where one realizes that the entire Elder Scrolls universe is but a dream, and by truly achieving Chim, one becomes aware of that and can lucid dream. Failure to properly understand Chim, however, can result in the subject simply blinking out of existence. This is one theory of the hotly debated mystery, the disappearance of the dwarves. The Four Suitors of Benitah can be found in a few guaranteed places in Morrowind. One is in Vaden Bellis' house in Sadrith Mora, there's one in Tel Uvarith, a stronghold built when you advance through the Great Houses side quests, and another in the Urshalaku Burial Caverns Lateris Burial. You'll also receive a copy for completing the Imperial Cult quest Gathering Willow Anther. It's a skill book, and when you read it for the first time, you'll get a permanent 1-point boost to your restoration skill, which is used for magic that heals and fortifies, just like Oin used in the story. Yak and Vale, the healer that helps Oin in the story, can be found in the Vos Chapel. He's the game's master trainer in the restoration skill, meaning he can train the player up to max level in restoration. He also offers high-level training in mysticism and alteration.
I see this land suits you. We welcome you freely, Outlander.
So that's the Four Suitors of Benitah. What do you think of this story? Have you ever found and read it in-game? Were there any important messages I missed? Let me know down in the comments. This is one of my favorites. I'm a romantic at heart, so these stories of true love, of someone trying everything they can think of to be with the person they love and getting that happy ending is something that really speaks to me. I also love the names in this. Nimlam the Mighty, Zombel Mokafa, Master Vomph, Funk Razat Prif. My favorite is Master Komova. I can't stop imagining a super buff tough guy with a bad comb-over who got that tough because he was insecure about his hair. The names are all so silly and over the top, like the kinds of things Dungeons & Dragons players would come up with for a joke one-shot like Blorbo Bleebus, Lo Wang, or Biggest Dickus.
Do you find it visible? When I say the name Dickus. Dickus?
Next time, we're going to take a look at the marksmanship lesson, which you voted for last time. It's one of my favorite books in the Elder Scrolls, and I've wanted to cover it ever since I started this series. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this series as much as I'm enjoying making it. If you want to support the channel, the best way you can do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. It all helps immensely. There's a new video every Tuesday and Friday and shorts on Saturdays and Sundays. If you want to check out the whole Elder Scrolls Reading Club playlist, click here. Or click here for a video on the fearsome Darkside Predators Torrent attacks. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.